Good afternoon, everyone. I used to be a journalist myself, and I know that this particular slot is known as the graveyard slot, that people have a little keep after a heavy lunch, and I hope that what I will have to say in the next 10-15 minutes wouldn't put you to sleep. As introduced, I represent DBS Institutional Banking Group, the business arm of DBS. We finance large corporates, multinational corporations, and small, medium-sized enterprises, the whole gamut. And our work in sustainable finance is really anchored around two work streams. The first work stream is about managing the environmental and social impacts of our clients' operations, because we believe if our clients don't manage labor relations, community relations, environmental emissions from their operations well, it would affect their financial performance. It would affect their creditworthiness. It would affect their ability to repay our loans. The second work stream in sustainable finance for DBS is to actively pursue opportunities that will equip companies and countries to be climate resilient. It's not just about mitigating the emissions. We also want to make sure that we're adapting to the ever more evident impacts that we're seeing arising from climate change. So thank you very much for inviting DBS to speak at this event, how we can all play a part to accelerate action on climate change. Now, if there is one country that I associate with about forward-looking, Singapore definitely would come out on top. And it's actually quite a hard thing for me to say because coming from Hong Kong, there is always a little bit of rivalry between Singapore and Hong Kong. But in this regard, I do think Singapore has been really a visionary. Already a few years ago, when you were thinking about your new terminal, Changi Airport, Terminal 5, you already say, okay, let's raise it to 5.5 meters above sea level. So Terminal 5 is actually going to be higher than the rest of the Singapore. That's forward thinking because the planners were already thinking about rising sea levels. They were thinking about storm surges. They were thinking about possible floods. Your water infrastructure. Again, Singapore can take great pride in how you approach water sufficiency. You've got new water, you've got desalination plants, so that Singapore would never have to experience what Cape Town experienced last year. They have a countdown to day 0. They were counting down to the day that may not have fresh water supply. And Singapore is not going to face that problem because it's been truly a forward thinker in planning the future. DBS is also very proud of our heritage in Singapore. After all, DBS is the development bank of Singapore. We were set up with the express purpose of financing the infrastructure growth, the economic growth of the country. And we continue doing so in ASEAN for our neighboring countries and beyond. So today I want to share with you a few things that we've done, how we are tackling climate change. Last year, we did a joint study with the United Nations Environment Programme Inquiry to look at just how much money do we need to finance green growth in ASEAN alone. And we came out with an astronomical number. $3 trillion will be needed from public and private finance sectors to finance green opportunities in ASEAN between now and 2030. That is a humongous number that DBS cannot do alone, and no bank can walk alone on this path. That money could be spread in mainly 4 sectors: infrastructure, renewable energy, energy efficiency, agriculture. At DBS, we believe tackling climate change is about ways the bank allocate capital. We want to allocate capital towards activities, to clients that are managing their environmental and social risks, our first work stream. We also want to allocate capital to what we describe in the second work stream, whether it's renewable energy, energy efficiency, companies and countries doing their part to transition to a low-carbon economy. When it comes to energy development, which has become really fashionable and hot topic, and as we approach the climate change negotiations that will happen in Poland this year, we want to make sure that DBS will play our part in facilitating the economic growth in ASEAN in a sustainable manner. We've done quite a few renewable energy transactions in the past year, both homegrown. In Singapore, we've been a very key financial partner to Sunseap. Sunseap, probably you've heard, is quite a household name, your solar power company installing solar PV on HDB blocks. In Indonesia, another key market for us, we are one of the biggest financiers of geothermal energy projects. A flagship one called Wayang Wendu is capable of generating 220 megawatt of capacity. In China, we've been financing waste-to-energy projects. One project that we financed last year is able to divert over 200,000 tons of waste that would otherwise go to landfill. And just last month, we closed another deal in Taiwan that was quite a milestone for us, is to facilitate Taiwan's offshore wind project. That project is going to generate 120 megawatt of capacity. Now, I wouldn't want to bore you with all the numbers about generation capacity, but I do want to point out that when we are financing renewable energy, it really takes multiple transactions to get to the capacity that we would otherwise have to achieve in a single fossil fuel power plant. For DBS, we want to make sure that we approach energy generation in a balanced manner to look at what we call the energy trilemma. It's not just a dilemma. There are three things that we want to look at: both the security of supply, the affordability, and ultimately the sustainability of energy supply. Thank you very much.